wait for the room to fill up a little bit, but essentially thought I'd do this live. Took a trade this morning as well. London session open, so thought I'd kind of just share a little bit. Just gonna scan through what's going on. Not too bothered with what's happening with GA right now. So I've got GA sell, but you know, it's one of those ones where it's GA, so it could recover as well. That's basically what I've got. So I am positioned. If I go high time frame, we've basically broken below all of this. We left a little thing, came back, we scooped, we tapped into it, and then if you look at it a bit closer, you can see that we had a bit of indecision, and then we followed through with a sell candle, and then after that candle on the 4 hour, we could see the momentum came in, and then the same situation where we created this low, we came back and retested it with a structure, which is nice, and then within the structure we had a 1, 2, 3 middle section as well, so that was pretty much go-to. And then with everything added together, it wasn't really a subjective first touch. If you wanted to look at it like this, it was still valid. Doesn't really matter. And then you can see over there on the 15-minute, I saw the first 15-minute over here, and then the second one, and then over here I basically got involved somewhere around about there, in that candle, the second candle, and I was like, okay, cool, you know, I'm happy to take that. I didn't know at the time there was going to be news at the end of the hour, but the 15-minute was around about 6:30, roughly. I took the trade roughly around about 6:30, bear in mind. And then, so I was just reading that message. And then, yeah, took it at 6:30, and then the news came out at 7. I wasn't really too bothered about it. I know GA could be pretty horrible, but this was the power of low risk as well. So by having it with moderately low risk, it wasn't too bad. I'm looking at GU as well. Over here, I wanted to see it long. I was hoping for New York session, then when I saw that there was news here, I was like, you know what, this could probably push a little bit further than we anticipate, but I've got this in mind, and then an insurance entry from there if possible, and then I've got maybe a sell-off here. I don't know if we're going to come here. I don't think it's very likely, but if I flip this, and I zoom out a little bit, you can see that we've come to this point, but there's kind of room for a bit of a head and shoulders here, right? Where this is like your, I've got the head and shoulders tool, I haven't used it in a while. You've got your left shoulder here, head, right shoulder. Let me change the colors on that so you can see it, because it's invisible. Basically, as that's your neckline over there, and that's your head and shoulders. Not the cleanest, but it's there. So that comes up, taps into this bit, probably breaks a little bit higher, and then sells off. So keeping that in mind, it's a good territory for a head and shoulders. I want to see price come down here now, so I'm more interested in that, and if that's the case, GA is probably going to continue selling off, so that will be a positive. But right now, GA's basically made its play over here into that low, so it can recover to the upside now. It doesn't need to continue selling, so we just need to wait and see. But the likelihood is it is going to probably sell off, but it could come back up and recover to here before it comes back down. That's the unfortunate part about this right now, because that was a bit of a news volatile spike, whereas I think it was always intentional and it was always a part of the game. But this trade could become break even as well. We have to keep that in mind. This can sell off as well, can easily sell off on the next candle and start coming back down to these areas. We just need to be patient now and wait. A lot of people would have probably tried to FOMO into this position after the news, so those people could get slightly emotional at this point. Let's have a little look. So you said you took EN. Let's have a look at Euro New Zealand. Yeah, there's nothing about Euro New Zealand right now that jumps out to me. If I look at it on the 1 hour, we're basically within this, and then this is underdeveloped. So either this comes up into those areas there and sells off, or it continues moving back up and then creates something larger. So I'll be very patient with that. The only time you should really be looking to either sell this is on 2 points. This point right here, and this point up here. Anything between that is a bit noisy. Right, this minute. I don't have EN on watch, bear in mind, so I haven't done a thorough updated analysis on this, but from there to short, fine, because it's still below 50% of the overall range. It's in a good territory, but as far as I'm aware, on the weekly, you know, we're still in the middle of nowhere. We've broken above this, no signs of a sell. Long continuations are really what you're looking for. So on the 4 hour, yep, you could have taken a 4 hour entry here. Borderline, that would have been a good entry for a long, and then you would have basically got in there with, call it, even if you really wanted to, you could have gotten around about 25 pips, really and truly. And then you're basically running over 1%. You could lock in break even here now, and then just run that to the top for around about 6.3. It takes some time, but that would be the trade in itself, so it's not so bad. I can see, let's see next one. The short you took though, yeah, let's have a look at that. This one here, terrible trade, sorry. It's because it's on the low, you know, you got to look left. It's okay, maybe it was a rushed in trade, you weren't in the proper flow state. There's all these little variations that could have led to that. Hold on, if I put this here. Anyway, so you can see, so in isolation, yeah, I can kind of see what you're looking for, like something like that. I think you played it in terms of positioning, it's not the best place because high time frame's looking bullish, so you're playing against the high time frame when you're getting positioned here. In here, that's good. This whole area here would have been fine. On that area there, not so good. This area here was good. Broke, kind of did 90% there, so this whole area wasn't good. In here would have been good, and down here was risky again. So within all of here, there's good areas and then there's trickier areas, and I think being able to filter through that is probably essential. So yeah, that trade there, I'm not surprised why it didn't commit, because it's a trickier one. I know what you would kind of look at, but what about something like that? You know, and it's kind of just channeling, and I'm taking the middle section. I get it, but at the same time, it's like, it's not, yeah, it's just the positioning. The positioning wasn't good. Because of the high time frame. I also took 2 charts yesterday on GA. Okay, so I said this one yesterday, right? This isn't a bad trade, right? It's just very early on. For me, because it didn't commit in London session, right? Which was basically around about this period where, you know, it didn't follow through, fair enough. I was like New York session over here, it didn't follow through. And then any time after it was like, okay, no point. I think, again, I said this yesterday, if you're taking this trade, you either accept the loss on the aggressive play here, you take it on the aggressive play, you mitigate over here, so you basically sacrifice your risk reward. You can still manage to break even, but then you have to survive swaps. So isn't it better to wait for London session or Asian session? So then Asian session came and it was around about here, and I was like, okay, either that sells off when I'm sleeping or it recovers and comes back up for a 3 touch. I'm gonna wait till London session. Why? because there was news as well at London session, which kind of gave me an indication that if price hovered around here, it probably will spike back up and then sell off if this is going to be the gameplay. So looking at the psychology of the news based with the technicals, it kind of made sense that we didn't need to be taking a trade at Asian session. And then knowing that around about, I think it was roughly around about 8 o'clock UK, I just decided I'm going to go sleep because I'm not going to wait around for a trade. And it was equally with wheat as well. If I was going to stay up, I was going to wait for wheat as well over here. But again, happy I didn't do that. And I was like, I'm not going to compromise my sleep over just a trade. So then I saw 1, 2, 3. I saw this. I knew that news was potentially around the corner. But in the moment, I didn't know that. In the moment, I was just like taking what I knew. And then I saw the time. It was roughly around about 8:27 exactly. I took the trade in here. Somewhere around about here. Probably this candle. Somewhere in that candle, can't really put it exactly because I've got a different quotation. I'm using Oanda, but I always analyze on FXCM, which is this massive controversy, but in there, and then basically holding it now. It is pulling back though, so don't get me wrong. It may not play, who knows? But I'm not going to jump out of the trade just because of that. Right, I'm going to just stay on the 1 hour now, see how the 1 hour closes. Wait for the next 1 hour, and then maybe by 9 AM, you know, prices breaking lows and moving lower. Who knows? I just gotta wait and see. But the 2-touch, I think it was just one of those things where it was early. You know, we always knew it could develop into a 3, so you would have had to know to mitigate your risk. But you should have survived this, whatever this was, by having a bit of additional stop loss. And by swaps, you would have probably got out of the market, in my personal opinion, or at least held a strong break even. So what was the thought process? Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. So yesterday I took a trade. It was a win. It was Aussie 200. And so if I just break it down from the daily. So if you look at the daily, I was going to do this later because around about 12 o'clock I'll do another live where I'm actually streaming it from the PC, but basically I might as well just show you on here. So basically tapped into the daily low here. You can see multiple times when price came to this area, it had a strong wick in nature. It was just really failing to, well, essentially what was happening here is every time it sold off, somebody was buying it back up. And then sentiment selling it off again, and somebody bought it back up. And then again, came down here, finally tapped into it, somebody bought it back up. And then the next day, it basically engulfed the next candle here, and basically just came all the way back up here. This was the candle that I got involved in, but obviously I didn't know in a moment in time it was going to do that. I just knew that, okay, we had a good formation of a candle on the 4 hour here. So the formation of the candle was Morningstar. For those who don't know, Morningstar, we basically had indecision at the low, and then we basically had a strong push up over here. At that point there was chance for a daily swing play for sure, just wasn't something of preference of mine at the time. And then I was looking for continuation, and I was like, okay, well, we've now broken above this. This is like showing that sentiment is strong bullish. Look at these candles pushing up quite aggressively. And I was looking for continuation. Couldn't find any continuation so far, and then I was like, okay, here we go. So we're on this little mini high, but clearly price isn't pulling back to tap into that to sell off. Price is moving probably to something more significant in these areas. So then I looked at it a little bit closer, and I was like, okay, so if I remove this, what we're really looking at is, let's say that's our target zone, because that's kind of the origin of that overall move to the downside. And then I'm looking at this to potentially be a 3-touch, but then I was like, do we necessarily need a 3-touch? Because when I go back to the 1 hour and the 4 hour, it's quite aggressive. We're in a kind of a momentum play. So I was like, all right, you know, being in a momentum play, a 2-touch would be more than enough as long as I can protect. So I saw this trade, didn't hesitate on it too much. In fact, I didn't even have it on my session watch first of all. And then coming in like around about 5 or 10 minutes towards the session open, it was roughly around about here, around about right about there. On this candle, but just before it, I was like, okay, this came a lot quicker because I was looking at Aussie 200 for New York session, but it came down for London session, and because I was looking at the 3-touch, that's why I anticipated a New York session trade. And then when the 2-touch came, I started reanalyzing everything, and I was like, okay, this makes sense for a 2-touch. So then I was looking at it on the 15. I did go briefly on the 5, but on the 5, I just didn't have a strong enough feeling for that. So I was like, I want to see a little bit more, and I would like to see it pretty much push up to around about this region here. So I was waiting for that. And then coincidentally on the 15-minute, it's basically where it was. So I said, okay, you know what? There was a few minutes left. I was like, I'll wait for the 15-minute close. 15-minute close was there. And I was like, bang, I'm in that trade. And then I think I took it for borderline 20 pips, but I ended up with a 3-to-1. So it was probably a little bit inside it, because I know I put 20 pip stop loss, and it was about here. So that was basically the trade there. And then I was like, all right, sick. And the reason why I went with such a large stop loss, I say this in almost every video, is it just keeps me well protected. Look, if price came up and sold off, and I wasn't around the charts for whatever reason, because I like to do other things, price came here and went, I still survived because I mitigated against it over here. Now, yeah, sure, could you argue, well, you could have made 5.6% though for the same trade? Yeah, sure, I could have, but I didn't, and I decided to go for the extra protection because I felt more comfortable knowing that my position was open, but I had better protection. Right now with GA, I kind of did the same thing. You know, okay, this one felt a bit aggressive for me, but I went 25 pips. You could argue, you could have gone, 15 pips on that, right? And you'd be running like borderline 3% to the low, you would have been out the trade already. Yeah, sure, there's always these things, but I mitigated against the possibility that if news came, it was here and it spiked, I could have been taken out, and maybe I took another piece of slippage on that. So I didn't want to risk something so crazy. As well, at the same time, it's not the best trade in the world, it's just a trade. So staying with low risk, stacking those wins, works in my favor. So in terms of management, don't get me wrong, in the moment, I thought this was going to fly. I thought this was going to continue breaking and moving up higher and higher and higher. But I was more than happy to drop my ego and accept a 3-to-1 because I was going to go to sleep and I couldn't manage it. And for that, I was like, yeah, man. So I hope that makes sense, because sometimes it's better to stack those small wins than to constantly be jumping in for 5, 6, 7%. Build that buffer. Like what I've got a trade here now. Got this one here. It's just a trade. And it's GA. If I go down to the 5-minute, you can see a bit closer. Alright. Mechanically, everything is there. Just need to wait and see if it follows through. I ran about here. I'm going to be running about 3%. I'm not going to lock that one out because I'm still early London session. But towards the end of the day, depending on where it's positioned, I'll probably get out of the trade. I might get out for like a 5 or 6-to-1 if this commits, and so forth, and then I can stack that. And I'm well on my way to getting overall 10% on my account again this month. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm almost certain I'm probably going to end this week the same as last. Right, last week I was on 19.3% or something in that region. This week I'm probably going to end up on 15 or whatever percent. But I might not. I might end up on break even. It's just being very optimistic because I just know that I know what I'm looking for. I've tested it strategically. My reticular activated system's on point. My flow state is high. I'm doing everything I need to do, journaling and everything. And I think at the end of the day, these are the things that you need to be doing as well. You need to be journaling. You need to be putting yourself in a good flow state. You need to be just genuinely uplifting yourself, man. That's what it's really about. Sometimes I kind of feel like, those people who go to those churches where everybody's like uplifting each other's and they're singing and stuff, and that energy is flowing, like that's really healthy. That's a really healthy environment. I mean, obviously, because my wife's Catholic, and obviously, you know, with her church, so I always have a lot of questions, and they ask for a lot of money. And I think obviously I get the donations help the church stay alive, but at the same time, it's like sometimes it's more about the money than it is about the community. And I think some churches have great communities, and some of them don't. And I think personally, when you have a great community, even with traders, that energy flows. Like a lot of you guys message me on Instagram and ask me questions about, you know, certain trades and stuff. Shit happens, but at the end of the day, you guys all know what you're doing. There's going to be a time where we're all chilling together somewhere, and we're all looking back and we're like, hey man, you remember those webinars? I used to be on those. I used to be on those calls, and we'll be laughing at it. And that's the nice thing about it. So let's see, XAU, right? Gold. Gold right here. Gold. I was looking for continuation. Do you know what? It kind of gave something there, but I think I totally missed it. It was over there. Let me just check this off. It was kind of like the S&P sort of drop off. I mean, I would have probably not taken that trade, I'll be honest with you, even though it was just very irregular. Gold coming up into these areas, yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan. You know why? If I measure this up, I've got to see a 4 hour, man. This has got to be 4 hour play for me, really. And an insurance entry. So for what I want, it's not going to be ready today. What I would really want to see to confirm this trade would be strong push up, strong push in, insurance entry, and a trade, taking a trade anywhere within, you know, this whole area here. Let's say below the 50%, just to make it a little bit better. It retraces above, comes back in. Anywhere there would be great for a trade to keep going short, to play into the lows here. I would be for that. But it's gold. You know, gold's been pushing for all-time highs. DXY has been subjectively selling off. It's a tricky one. If DXY just really starts plummeting, gold might just get another pump to the upside. So you might be good looking for a long. But at the same time, you're in an area where you could be going short. So it's not as nice as it used to be. Silver might arguably be better to trade, because silver might be the clue that we're not going to be coming back down. We're going to be moving higher, and this kind of scoops back up. So silver might be the clue that focus on longs, and let's just say you get something remotely in that area there. You can just eventually play it up into those sides there. It's probably not going to be so direct, but look, you can kind of see it's kind of coming back up to those areas. Nothing really to the left, just retesting this, but it's not significant enough. That's got to move. I think that's it. Good morning, Sean. Good morning. Yeah, the doji is not acceptable on that. Do you know what? I don't even look at the 30 minutes. I don't even look at the 30 minutes. There's too many time frames that you can find, but really and truly, I would mark this one as the low. It could be a 2-touch, don't get me wrong, it could be. I probably would go with this, and I'll wait. And I think what we'll see is probably price comes in, taps into that, probably breaks this low, but leaves a gap to this one. Starts coming back up, doesn't come all the way, and then sells off again. And then you get something more in the signs of this, where it doesn't have to be exactly how I've drawn, but this is just a variation, where it's kind of more so like that. And you have it kind of into the low, and then you can kind of take it from an insurance entry or from that low to buy. That's the trade that I'll be looking at. GC, yeah man, I'm happy you cut losses on GC. Whoa, holy smokes. Let me see what's going on. I think it's good. I was looking at GC actually, funnily enough. I even marked it up here. I was looking at, because I was looking at GA, I was like, GA sells, let me see how the other GBP pairs would look. GC arguably banging trade right here. You could have taken a trade here. That was right on news though, I believe, so yeah, that sucks. Probably, oh shoot, what's going on here? Swiss pairs. I know, oh man, I was hoping it would come back up there. This could be a sign that we could be recovering at some point on these GBP pairs, because they're selling off way too early. So I think this sell is just kind of a bit of a deliberate trap, beginning of a trap. GJ looks interesting. Looks like it's, yeah. It makes me want to not be in a GA trade right now, because you know we've got this as well. I was speaking about how this could be an inverse head and shoulders to the upside, but at the same time we might see price create consolidation here to sell. So let's be conscious. If price does push back up, then that's your message from the market. Price comes back up here, gives you insurance entry on GU. You go to the upside, and you can take that long because you're basically playing that structure, and that's basically confirmed. Not my favorite one. I think personally, I'd much prefer the trade from down in these areas. Price comes in, taps into that. Higher time frames, head and shoulders is confirmed. We're pushing away now. We've kind of created a base there. It's still above 50% of the retrace of this. Borderline, that makes sense. I like that trade thesis a lot more than where we are right now. So I'll be waiting for that. And let's see, New Zealand CAD. What was that? Aussie 200 short. Well, right now on Aussie 200 short, it's possible, but do you see there's a small clue here as well. I'm looking for a re-entry on long, if I get one, but not a risk entry, an insurance entry. Same situation I was saying. Do you know what? This is tapped into the low. It's done everything it needs to do. This right now could sell, but it's left a gap here and it's left a gap here. If you look at it closely, you can see that that was just a random piece of sell-off there. Left a gap, came back. It took out this one ever so slightly, but it still left a gap. The odds are this is coming back up, but it's come down to look for some liquidity. So I think you could be seeing something in the eyes of this. Maybe not that large. Maybe not that large, but basically what this will be is, this will be your squeeze into this section here, and then this will be here on the break to come back up to the upside. Catching people out, thinking this is what happened. They'll be thinking this is going to be one large piece of its own. So I'm taking this structure here, but the structure is sitting on this low, and then in line with the higher time frame and those gaps I mentioned, it makes sense to be looking for the long, and that's it. So I think it will be as simple as that, but I don't think it'll play out today. I think it could be an early London session tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? Yeah, early session tomorrow, or if you want a risk entry, Asian session probably down here somewhere. Nah, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna really wait on that. Even if there was a short today, I'm not gonna take it. I'm not looking to jump into that. HK50 is one I took off, but I'm guaranteeing that something's happening here. Similar situation. I mean, this is consolidating here for a long, so we might see something on that. Anyway, back to GA. Decent, absolutely decent. When is swap hours? So swap hours is 10 p.m. UK. I'm not sure what time zone you're in. Zeph, what time zone are you in? What country are you in? I don't even know anything about you, man. No, I'm joking. It will be at 10 p.m. UK. So that's the same. You're the same time zone as me, I believe, right? Or 2 hours difference. I think we're the same time zone. So it'll be 10 p.m. 10 p.m. So our midnight is it? All right, guys. I'm gonna go take my dogs and prep for the morning and play the piano for a little bit, and then I'll be back at 12 o'clock to do another live. So I'll catch you guys. Oh, you're 1 hour ahead of me. Oh no, you're 1 hour ahead of UK. I am 2 hours ahead of UK, so yeah, borderline the same. Yeah, so yeah, it'll be 11 p.m. your time. That's the swap times. All right, sweet guys. So let's hope we are doing well with these trades, and we'll come back and intervene. I'll probably post something on Instagram in the meanwhile anyway, if there's some developments, but I've definitely got break even locked in on my trade, and yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that continues moving. All right, take care guys, catch you later, 12 o'clock.